What's up, everyone? Welcome to No Butts About It. I'm Josh Butts. We got Jesse James Taylor here to talk about all of the NFL contract details you have been wondering about. All right, Jesse. Thank you so much for joining us today. So for people who don't,
happy to be here. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I see you're rocking the Cincy hat. Big fan of that. Ted Karras and all the good stuff they do.
It's our local Anderson Wildcats Youth Football League. Wherever the little patch is, they did one specifically for us. So pretty cool that they do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that they did that. I've seen them do a lot of other charity work, but I didn't know they did stuff with youth sports. So that's great to know. For people who don't know who you are and what you do, what is the spiel, real quick, just so we can get to know you a little bit better?
Yes, so I guess I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I'm an NFL agent, or more formally known as an NFLPA certified contract advisor. We're the Jerry Maguires of the world, so to speak. Less Bob Sugars, if you're ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire. I'm a local practicing attorney as well. I kind of specifically do a lot of sports law. So whether that's personal injury related to local sports, or if it's an injunction against a sports affiliate or a sports league, we do that. I handle a lot of NIL contracts in college. I was on the NIL forefront of doing case research and looking up all of the new laws and helping talk to the Ohio Athletic Commission with what was going on in other areas. I teach sports law at Northern Kentucky University, and am just an active participant in sports. Better yet, I'm a Bengals fan at heart. I do have season tickets, so if you're ever at a game, you'll catch me there.
Awesome. Well, I love to hear the Bengals fandom. Chuss isn't here. He's a Steelers fan, so we can just stick together being Bengals fans. That's good. And we're gonna get into some of that NIL stuff first, but something I want to talk about before we do that is something Bengals fans are going to be very familiar with, something Bengals fans would want to leave in the past. And I know the contract is done, but I think there's still a lot of confusion about what was going on with Shemar Stewart. We've seen some interviews with his agent, and his agent described it when he was on the Cincy Unfiltered podcast as a life insurance clause. That kind of, I think, left some people more confused than it did help. So maybe you can help us clarify things.
Yeah, I'd love to. I don't see it the same way as Zach Heiler
was
did.
This? Excuse me, what? Cut out there for a second.
No. Oh, I was saying I don't see it exactly the same way as Zach Heiler with his kind of comparing it to an insurance clause. I supported everything they were doing in principle. It was absolutely the right call in the beginning, and I would love to kind of dissect kind of how that played out, the whys, why nots, the haves, the have-nots, and how that went down.
Okay, yeah. So this contract, what is it, first of all? Because I think a lot of fans, including myself, from what we've read, it sounds like the Bengals were just saying, don't get arrested. And then Shemar and his team were like, well, I can't control that. And that was kind of concerning to some fans because, if you've got a player saying I can't control getting arrested, that's a little concerning for a whole bunch of other reasons. So,
yeah, I don't think both sides didn't really do justice to what was going on in the situation. Whether or not that was Mike Brown coming out at his, yearly luncheon and talking about, what is conduct detrimental to the club, and then giving the one solo example being, I don't want to pay a player that's in jail and not suiting up for my team. That that absolutely is conduct detrimental to the club. There's no doubt about it. No agent will ever push back. No player will ever push back that if you go out and you commit a heinous crime or a crime that leads to incarceration, yes, that is going to be a triggering mechanism for voiding someone's guarantees. You have to remember, voiding of guarantees does not mean voiding of contract. It's they're not the same. Voiding of the guarantees just means that there's specific language in there that if a player defaults or has a triggering mechanism, that what was guaranteed is no longer guaranteed, and the clubs can kind of have an out if they so choose. Conduct detrimental to the club, however, is extremely vague. It is not something that as an attorney, as an agent, I want to see in any contract. And I guarantee you, if you ask Troy and Katie Blackburn, reciprocal, they don't want to see it in any subsequent business dealing that they do. And I'm not talking about contract detrimental to the club. I'm talking about vague and ambiguous language. It's right. Contract 101. You do not put any language, or you do not agree to any language that is vague and ambiguous, not spelled out with specifics. Putting in there an incarceration clause is a specific. And yes, Bengals contracts have that specifically spelled out in their contracts. I saw it in Amaris Mims' contract. I believe it was in Miles Murphy's contract, Dax Hill's contract. So it's been in these first-round picks contracts in the past. That's not anything new. What was new, however, is in those previous first-round picks contracts, a voiding mechanism or a default, if triggered, would trigger only in that specific year. So if there was a term of incarceration, and specifically it said 72 hours or more, then that would create a default in that year. So in 2025, if one of those players goes out, gets arrested, and has a triggering mechanism for the Bengals to default on their guarantees, that guarantee would only go away in 2025. What they want to do is similar to what other teams around the league are doing, and that's voiding all future guarantees. Not just 2025, but 2025, 26, 27, 28, the life of that contract. And that's where Hiller and his team kind of pushed back. I don't know. I worked in insurance for a couple years before I even went to law school, and I didn't get that reference. I didn't understand it, but the principle behind it is absolutely you don't want to guarantee it. You don't want to set the precedent. You're not just looking out for yourself, but precedent is that if you establish it, future years are going to be subject to it as well. So he didn't want to be the one that agrees to it for nothing. And then 2026 first round pick is going to have to agree to it. 2027 first round pick is going to have to agree to it, absent some form of leverage that they're given, right? God forbid, I hope this isn't the case. But if they have the first overall pick next year, that first overall pick's probably going to say, I hold a lot of leverage here. I don't want that language. And he might get it out. If not, I think he'll have a better opportunity to get the scheduling breakdown of what Shemar Stewart ultimately got with his signing bonus more up front than what he ultimately agreed to, which was a little over $500,000, which brings us to kind of what the give and take was for why they were ultimately able to come to that agreement. I don't think it was a good concession by Stewart and his team. Ultimately, it had to be done. And I don't know if this was something that Stewart just said, hey, look, get me in camp. I just want to play football. I don't care anymore. And ultimately, this is what they just kind of said, we'll just do. I don't know that. But $500,000 up front from money that you're already going to get in 6 months isn't a large concession. It's really not. And if this was something worth holding out for, if this was on the table back in, I'll even say May, then it wasn't a good agreement in the middle of July. If that was something that the Bengals came to Stewart and his side and said, this is it, this is all we're willing to do, take it or leave it, and they said no, then I don't know. Not very good start, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that was also what left a lot of fans confused, was they saw this huge, drama spill out. All the NFL media was talking. They were talking about him going back to college. And then all of a sudden it's just this, $50,000 advance on your, or $100,000, however much it was, just advance on your money that you're already going to get. It wasn't anything extra. And so that was very confusing.
I thought that concession was going to be larger. I thought in order for them to come to terms, that's what was needed to happen. They needed to figure out signing bonus schedule and concede on that a little bit. Not 500,000. I thought it was going to be upwards of maybe another $1 million, so 1.5 million more up front instead of in December, which ultimately wasn't the case. So I don't know if that's something they didn't even bring up as a possibility early on in the negotiations. Again, I have no idea, but that's something that should have been on the table from the start. Hey, you want this language in, we know you're going to have to give up something in order to get it, and this is what it's going to take. Instead, I think they said, no, heck no, take it out, don't put it in, which I agree. I do agree with them saying don't put it in. You have to go all the way back, little history lesson, all the way back to the CBA in 2011 on why these contracts are guaranteed in the first place. Remember, look back to before there was the rookie wage scale. You had Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford today, his contract that he signed in 2010 is still more valuable than the first overall pick Cam Ward that he signed this year. He has a larger AAV and a larger signing bonus in 2010. Think about how much the cap has ballooned since then. And you're telling me that we're not there yet, which is fine. That's fine. That's what they agreed on. The agreement and the concession, though, was, hey, we'll begrudgingly give up these high inflated rookie deals to get, veterans more money because there'll be more money left over for the veterans on the salary cap. But in addition, fully guarantee the first round draft picks salaries. Not possibly fully guarantee them, fully guarantee. That's what's in the CBA. What the owners have done is they've come around and they've said, hey, technically it's a loophole. If we add into a contract that we can default for some specific reason, even if the specific reason's not spelled out specifically, we can default on the guarantees and we don't have to pay them. That's contract law for you, though. If you can contract around a CBA, you're allowed to. Okay. So yeah, since 2011 they've been fully guaranteed, or the promise of fully guarantees. And you look at, I think Trent Richardson was the first player that had his fully guarantees defaulted, and all he did is he missed a plane flight to I believe a game. But even before the game, there was a walkthrough, and he missed that because he was tending to his pregnant girlfriend who was sick and in the hospital, which I think human nature, to me, that sounds like a pretty good reason to miss a team flight. Not the game, but just the team flight, to be by his sick girlfriend in the hospital. So what did Indy do? Because he was traded from Cleveland to Indy. Cleveland and Indy gets that full contract when you trade a player. They voided his guarantees. They said that was conduct detrimental to the club. Voided his guarantees, cut him before the following season, saved himself $3.1 million on what should have been a fully guaranteed deal. That's why players don't want that in. Doesn't happen often, right? The other area to look at is someone like Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams had his guarantees voided as well when he was suspended for violations of the league's gambling policy. So that's an automatic default as well. He did that. He hasn't lost any money. He still gets paid everything because he's playing. He's still part of the team. But if for any reason, and this won't happen, if for any reason the Lions want to cut him, his contract's no longer fully guaranteed. Then we also saw it, tough to bring up, but we saw it with Henry Ruggs and that unfortunate incident involving the loss of life of the young lady and her dog. Henry Ruggs voided those guarantees as it should have been, and then subsequent to that, his contract was terminated. That gives you, an exact example of it working and how it should work, right? There's no question about that. No question about that incident, that unfortunate incident. But that's what that's for. Not so if the club says, I think this conduct arises to something that we believe we don't like. That's what conduct detrimental is. It's subjective. It's subjective to whatever the club wants it to be.
So the clubs decide this. There's not some agreement that the NFLPA has come out with. If that clause is in there with these, it meets these qualifications. Because I think it's reported there's like 11 teams or so that don't have this clause in there yet. So we could still see this come up again in the future. And it's just kind of like you're saying, vague language that anyone could just say, okay, yeah, you made me mad. I don't like you. I'm taking your money.
Yeah. It's not per se in the CBA, right? There are instances in the CBA that do highlight certain violations. Teams they're not subject to pay their players. Violation of performance enhancing substances, violation of substance abuse, right? Like all of those things are in the CBA, and the penalties are outlined for each violation, subsequent violations, suspensions without pay. Because even if your contract's fully guaranteed and you do that and you're suspended from the league without pay, that is without not within the realm of your guarantees, correct? So yes, there are instances where the CBA does highlight that and says that. What the owners are doing is they're adding their own subjective qualifiers to what could void a guarantee.
All right. I think that clears it up so much more. I think that will help a lot of fans kind of understand what's happening here and should ease some worries about him possibly getting arrested. I don't think anyone saw that as being an issue until that was kind of brought up as a possibility for that clause and how hard they were fighting it.
The other part of that doesn't get brought out in light of this is I'm trying to remember it verbatim. It's conduct that materially undermines the respect of the club, right? What does that mean, Josh? What does that mean to you?
Conduct that
undermines the respect of the club.
Maybe if honestly, like kind of what maybe if Shemar Stewart had been signed at the time when he came out to practice and had said the stuff about Mike Brown being cheap and just like openly speaking out against the owners, the coaches, something like that. Is that what that means?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of these contracts they'll have like 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strikes and you're out type of language in there with that. Other clubs don't have it at all. And you'd be surprised how many guys they don't understand. They don't know what that means. And unless you're the agent telling them what it means and giving them the examples of it, sometimes they don't hold back, right? Sometimes they call it the Pickens clause, which was first introduced with Carl Pickens back in the 90s, that he wasn't able to go to the media and bash the Browns or the Bengals. And teams have stuck with that. That was a big contention on Myles Garrett's contract when he signed it as the first overall pick, was putting that language in there, which the Browns got it in. I don't think he got anything large in return. And that could have just been one, maybe they just didn't have an issue with it, or two, maybe the agent didn't see it. And I think a lot of it, that's what it is. A lot of these contracts, the agents aren't attorneys. There are like some like me who are my business partner is an attorney as well. He's been an agent since I believe 2009. And we read contracts every single day for a living. A lot of these agents don't, I think some may have been, I don't even know, fresh out of grad school when they apply and get a guy. Right. I know some agents were just friends with players and the player goes, "Hey, I trust you. Can you be my agent if you take the test and you qualify and do the application?" And they've never even seen a contract a day in their life. And some are good. Some do it and they know exactly what they're doing. Others not so much. But I think that's what happens is these agents, they just miss it. And when you miss it, you're setting the precedent for everyone else to kind of be forced into signing it.
Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful. I do want to move on to some other defensive stars that we've had talked about this offseason. Unfortunately, one of them is another Bengals player, Trey Hendrickson, but also we got Cam Heyward. So we got Trey and then Cam. Both of them they want to do some deals this year. They're both under contract right now, but they want new deals. I believe Trey wants paid more, and it seems like Cam, from my understanding, wants his money kind of more front loaded this year and into next year. How much leverage do players actually have in these situations? Are they situational? It depends on the club. It depends on the player. Do you view these two situations differently in any way? Or like what's kind of your perspective of the Trey Hendrickson and Cam Heyward's contract extension holdouts?
When, in I don't know this off the top of my head, when did Cam Heyward sign his last extension? Was it last?
I think so. Let me double check.
That kind of, because Cam may be in the same situation that Trey was in last year, where when you get an extension, you have to wait 12 months from the date of that extension in order to add new money to any existing year of that contract, right? You can add money on the back end, you can add years on the back end, but you can't touch the year in question within of the newly negotiated deal. So Cam may be in that situation where he needs to wait until after 12 months to get new money or additional money in 2025. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know what date he signed that. But that's
according to Over the Cap, Cam Heyward signed a 2-year, $29 million extension on September 4th, 2024 with $16 million guaranteed.
So he has to wait. He has to wait until September 2025 to get new money added on to 2025, right? He's not under contract in 2026. This is his last year of that 2-year deal, or does he have 20 well?
He has 2026. So he's a free agent in 2027.
It's pretty tough for him to have leverage right now because there's not much they can do. They can add guarantees. They can sit there and say, hey, we'll fully guarantee whatever money you have in 2025 and 2026, but they can't add money until after 1 year. So next month, they can absolutely they can renegotiate, they can do whatever they want after 12 months. But he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place right now with leverage. Because there's nothing that can happen. They can't. They're not allowed to based on the language of the CBA. He can add years. They can add 2027, 2028, and increase that as much as they want. They can fully guarantee whatever they want. But they can't add any money to 2025, 2026 until a year from that, which is confusing to why he's sitting out. But again, I don't know exactly what he's negotiating for, other than just there's not much that they can do. It's the same thing that Trey was in last year. Trey came out demanding a trade back in like March, and I remember talking to who was it? I was posting on Adam Schefter's tweet about him having a trade demand, and I quoted the CBA, and I was like, "Hey guys, he can't. Like, what are we doing here? He can't do it." And then even Kay Adams was reaching out to me asking like, "What is this? How is this so? Like, what else can he do? Can he add guarantees?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like he can add guarantees to it, but until July 27th, he's stuck with that contract. He can't do anything." They can add money on the back end, but it sounds like Trey wants money up front and security up front. Now he can come in and he can do whatever he wants. And everyone saw the edge market exploding. Everyone knew the edge market would explode. You look at the all pros that have 1 year left on their contract. You look at the players whose contracts are expiring, and you knew that was going to blow up. You also look at the guys on rookie deals who are coming up. You got Trayvon Walker, you've got Aiden Hutchinson. Those guys, what first 2 picks in the draft? Like, of course they come with that, not just a first round pedigree, but they come with a top 5 pedigree. That pays. Not just that, the production level of Aiden Hutchinson, and then the consistency of Trayvon Walker. I think he's had multiple 10-sack seasons in a row, and he's a disruptive force in the run game. So he's going to see a pretty penny. Are these guys going to be $30 million a year guys? Maybe. They might come pretty close to that. And what's that going to do? It's not going to take Trey's number up. It's going to take his floor up, which is a huge negotiating tactic for him, because at the beginning of all this, I think the Bengals weren't even willing to come up to, I think they were talking in the low to mid 20s. And now the last I heard is they've matched it. They've all agreed on year or AAV in years, but they're not there yet on guarantees. Well, guess what? Guess what? Those bottom guys, that floor is going to do. That floor is going to push the guarantees up even more, because you're going to look at not just what the guaranteed number is, but what the percentage of the salary is that's guaranteed, and that's going to have a mega impact on Trey if they don't get it done before we see these rookies, these guys on rookie contracts, renegotiate or get extended.
What is kind of usually the owner's reasoning in these meetings for not giving the guarantees to a player like Trey, who has been just so, dominant? He's been consistent. He's not hurt a lot. Yes, he's older, but okay, you're going to have that risk with any player that they get hurt. Because to me, looking at it, and I know as an agent, you're always trying to get him all the guarantees you can. But if I'm the owner, I'm going to say, yeah, okay, we're going to end up paying Trey this money anyway, because he's going to play, he's going to perform. So I'm not really saving anything by not giving him these guarantees. And if that's all he wants, do it. What's
owners do not love guaranteeing contracts in the NFL. Their stance is, look, this is the most violent sport in America. We get it. Baseball contracts fully guaranteed. Basketball contracts fully guaranteed. But ours is not, because we don't know that they're going to be there day in and day out. That's their stance, right? The player's stance is this. We want fully guaranteed contracts because this is the most violent sport in America. We don't know if tomorrow's not promised to us. We want paid for what we've already done and what we know we can do, with the caveat if they're healthy, right? So that's kind of the line, is the owners, they're not sure that you're going to be there. The players are saying, but we're the ones putting our body on the line. The owners, they're always trying to find ways to not guarantee contracts. You do have owners who are more than willing to do so. I mean, go back to this past draft signing period. The Houston Texans jumped right on Higgins and given him a fully guaranteed deal as a second-round pick, right? He wasn't the first pick in the second round. He was the second pick in the second round, pick 34. He was the first second-round pick to receive a fully guaranteed contract, 100% fully 100% guaranteed, which then Schweizinger with Cleveland had to get a fully guaranteed contract. And we actually saw that go all the way to the first 9 picks in the second round to Tyler Shook with New Orleans. Still seeing what happens with Quinshon Judkins if he gets fully guaranteed, right? But again, look at that. The precedent is set there to where not just did picks 1 and 2 and 3 get fully guaranteed money. Pick 4 in the second round, that's all they're waiting on. And they're not signing Quinshon yet because of what happened, because of the allegations. I can't even say what happened because those allegations were dismissed against him. But they still aren't ready to do a fully guaranteed contract for that. They're hesitant. It just shows that these owners don't really want to do it. Even though Cleveland gave it to the first pick in the second round, they're not quite ready to do it for the 4th pick in the second round, even though precedent's set and they'll fully guarantees go all the way to that pick 9 in the second round. What owners do in these negotiations, though, to kind of circle back to the beginning of your question, is the same thing that agents do. You have a list. It's almost like a stem and leaf plot, where on this side is every reason why your player rocks, that your player is awesome. And that's what us agents are doing. Hey, he played in all 17 games. He was, first team, second team All-Pro, led the league in sacks, 17 and a half. 2 years running, has the most sacks in the NFL. But what are the owners doing? The owners are doing the exact same thing, but the opposite. They love Trey. I know they love Trey. I've heard it straight out of Troy Blackburn's mouth. They love him. But their job is to find all the negatives and figure out why they have the leverage in the negotiations. And they're sitting here saying, well, look, a lot of the sacks were against teams that didn't have winning records. They came in against teams where it was mop-up duty. No, they didn't have an impact on the game. Look at his run defense score. Look at this. Look at that. Right? Which any fan is going to sit there and say that's BS. That's lie. But that's what they're doing. That's what they're arguing. That's what is in their arsenal, of arguments against giving them these fully guarantees. Then, they might even try to figure out, hey, look, here's the analytics of any player over 30 years old and how long their career durability goes down after they're 32, 33. We're afraid to guarantee that because of the past players, and maybe their data points are early 2000s to 2015, which is not moot. It's moot. Like it already happened. These players nowadays are training differently. They're body ready. Trey's not playing every single snap. I mean, there's been a rotation of players that so to sit there and say that he has the same wear and tear as a player in the early to mid 2000s is completely erroneous. It's false. But that's what they do. That's what these owners do. They find any leverage, any standpoints that they can to argue their points alone. Sometimes there's got to be the give and take with those.
And to be clear, you're saying all owners do this, not just Mike Brown, because I know Mike Brown has that kind of stereotype, but this is everyone. This is Eagles, Colts, all of them.
Can't say all of them because
not all of them.
There are your select, I won't say owners, because some owners give up the power and they literally put it all on their general manager, right? Howie Roseman has his own, it's basically his own business, really. Like, it's incredible. They get ahead of these contracts. They're able to sign their guys to, it is market value, but it's market value before it's inflated. That's what happens when you identify your talent and then commit to paying them what the market is at the time. Today's market is not tomorrow's market.
Right.
That's the most obvious saying in all the sports, in all the business, not just sports. You can't sit behind and watch your adversaries get ahead of the curve, because what are they going to do? They're going to drive the market up. But what happens when, and we saw with the wide receiver market last year, I mean, what happens when you've got a player like, he's a great player, but Amon-Ra St. Brown signs a $30+ million deal. Well, all of a sudden, there's, a handful of players that believe, or their agent believes, that they're better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Don't get me wrong, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a heck of a player. This isn't a dig on him. But again, when he sets that at, $31 million, you've got at least 4 players are going to go above him. And the Lions were smart to get ahead of that. They did the same thing with Penei Sewell. They're going to do the same thing with Aiden Hutchins. It's the smart teams do it. The 49ers did it also this past season with George Kittle, with drawing a blank, their linebacker.
Warner?
Yeah, Fred Warner. And they were able to, can't say get ahead of the market with Brock Purdy, but they were able to get him signed not at a new market value deal. So if they would have waited, what happens if Purdy goes out, has an all-pro year, and they win a Super Bowl, right? He's going to sit there and say, hey, Dak is making 60. I want 61. I mean, because Dak's not Burrow. Dak's not Josh. Dak's not Lamar, right? Purdy can say, I had a better season than Dak and get ahead of that, right? The Niners were able to say, let's get him paid now. Like, let's not let this drag out, because we don't know what tomorrow's market's going to be. We don't know we don't know what Lamar Jackson's next contract's going to be. We don't know what Burrow's next contract's going to be. So a lot of these owners aren't afraid to get ahead of the market. Other owners are afraid to even jump into the market.
Okay. Well, appreciate you kind of covering that and dissecting those two situations. I don't know how much you can actually get into this because there is an ongoing lawsuit, I believe. But Christian Wilkins, what's like, this was weird. It just kind of suddenly happened. He was this big, free agency signing for the Raiders. A lot of teams wanted him. He was a top defensive tackle in not this past cycle, but the year before cycle of free agency. And then the Raiders just cut him and they're trying to get rid of all of his guarantees. Are teams able to do that? And we talked about that a little bit with Shemar Stewart previously. And I think you're going to say yes because of the vagueness of the situation, but it doesn't really sound like he did anything at all.
Yeah. I mean, circles back to conduct. What is conduct detrimental to the ball club? Him making, and again, these are allegations. I'm reading the same thing that everyone else is reading online. I have no insight into what took place in that what did or what did not take place in that locker room. But again, is it enough to void guarantees and get out? No. But yes, because the contract states it. Like, it's subjective. It's why if I have that language in there, the first thing I'm doing is going to the club and saying, spell it out. Name specifics. If locker room distractions is something you want, be specific about it. That language isn't in there. I can all but guarantee you that the language being a locker room distraction is in that contract. But conduct detrimental to the club more than likely is. What is it? What we were talking about earlier? Any conduct that materially undermines the respect of the ball club, that could probably fall in that as well. Because if he did something in the locker room that somebody else went out to the media and it blew up, possibly. But again, that's why specifics matter. You can't have that type of language in there. I think the NFLPA Wilkins camp is absolutely 100% correct in filing a grievance and getting this arbitrated to see if the arbitrator agrees, because he lost a ton of money. Right. I mean, if I don't remember off the top of my head, it was like $54 million that he lost.
Yeah, it was something crazy.
It is absolutely ridiculous that was allowed to happen. I don't think it should. I spent 1 year into the contract, new regime comes in. I mean, it smells a little fishy to me. Like the new regime came in and said, he doesn't fit in our plans, right? Find a way to get out of this. I don't know. I don't have a direct example or a direct, knowledge of the situation to do anything except speculate, but it just stinks, right? I mean, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And that's what this situation looks like, is just a very unfortunate situation where language matters in a contract. And this one was vague.
Okay. Well, that's a perfect example of what you were talking about with Shemar Stewart earlier, then, and why they fought that so hard. Your specialty, as you kind of mentioned at the top of the show, is NIL deals. You've done a lot with NIL work. How have these deals kind of affected how players and families negotiate? Do families seem more understanding, more educated on contract knowledge? Because I feel like a lot of the time before, we heard a lot of stories of, kid comes up from a poor financially environment and he just, sees that money in front of him in the contract and he signs it real quick. But now these guys some of them are getting millions in college with these brand deals. How has that kind of changed the last few years?
Yeah, I think it's only been positive in my dealings with families that have engaged in the NIL landscape. What they're able, the understanding, the knowledge that they're able to develop in college during a time that they weren't able to before, and then bring that to the NFL and that first contract that these players sign, it's unmatched. It's wonderful for them. They have a better understanding of what to expect, so to speak, during the negotiation of that first contract. Is it perfect? Do they mirror one each other? Not 100%, because again, NFL is governed by the collective bargaining agreement. You have the Players Association, the union, where NIL right now is the Wild West. There's no regulations really. They say there are. There's not. And everything is subject to basically whatever deal you can really broker. Now, yeah, there's the NIL Go. There's the commission that's supposed to review everything, which again is different than the NFL because it's just different parallels. But the understanding is there. The experience is there. The questions that they usually ask in that first contract in the NFL, they're able to ask as a freshman, sophomore in college. It's great. It's great experience. We're able to break down the contract with them, with their family, show them again. The best part is a lot of these collectives and now the schools, now that they've kind of dissolved the collective or merged with the collective, they're putting these players on payment schedules, which is again something that players don't see until they get to the pro level. And it blew my mind. Like 10 years ago when I first got into the agency world, I remember I was working with Richard Katz and we got a phone call from a player I think it was sometime in January going, hey, can you call blah, blah, blah and see where my check is? I didn't get paid. And we go, season's over. You don't get paid in the off season. And they're like, wait, what? Like it was eye-opening for them, right? Now they're able to get that experience and saying, oh, I might only get paid. Now, a lot of these times, these breakdowns are all 12 months, which is great. I have not seen a payment breakdown that's not 12 months, but I'm sure some schools, they might exist. But again, we can kind of sit there and use that as a teaching tool. So, hey, when you get to the pros, you're only going to get, 36, you're only going to get paid 36 weeks out of the year. And you're not going to get paid every week during the year. They're going to pay you in installments. Like it's not a yearly job that you're used to before you got to the pros. Like it's not that. So there's going to come a time when you may have a lapse in pay. The NFL used to just pay one check every week during the season. Now they break it up to every 2 weeks. So that's nice. Being able to kind of talk to them about payment schedules and what to expect with that. I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm missing. Like language. Language, right? We're able to literally sit there and show them how even these colleges put in very vague language, or they might not have a termination clause. Not the colleges, but some of these endorsement deals may not have a termination clause on when the relationship ends. And sometimes they try to sneak in that it's in perpetuity, which means it goes on forever, right? Which you don't want. You don't want a forever contract, and they do exist. So they're getting firsthand experience of being able to identify the red flags in contracts and understand why it is we go in and negotiate the things we're negotiating. And then honestly, this was something again that I learned from Richard is we want to teach our players. If it gets to a point where our players are like, hey, look, I know how to do this. I don't know if I really need you anymore. Like that's just the professor for Richard Katz taught sports law at Chase College of Law. Now I'm teaching sports law at NKU. It's just kind of the professor in us. We want to teach our players. We represented Chase Blackburn when he was a player with the New York Giants. Then he went on to be the special teams coordinator in Carolina. Well, now he's out in LA, and I believe he's doing all of his contracts on his own, which is wonderful. It's great to be able to see that, right? He can do it on his own. He's been in the league now. Gosh, I don't even know. I mean, it's got to be close to 15. Like I think he played for 8 or 9. And now he's been coaching for as long as I've been in this. So it's great to see that. And again, that wasn't NIL, but it's kind of the same thing. We want to be able to teach these kids, teach these families to issue spot, to be able to see where the red flags are, and what to stay away from.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Cause I can only imagine, you're you grow up kind of in poverty, maybe, or maybe you're just middle class even, and you make it to the NFL, your lifelong dreams come true, and they sit down a contract in front of you and are like, sign this line, here's $10 million or however much it is. It's like, I can imagine that just being overwhelming all of a sudden, especially if you don't know what to even look for. Because I imagine those contracts are not 1 to 2 pages long as well. So
That's
so
that's the other thing. That's a great point. The fact that, like, yeah, these contracts aren't 1 to 2 pages, and they don't have to be. They can be as long as you want them to be. And I think players and agents and teams don't really understand that, which is why I'm not shy to go in and say, hey, see this conduct detrimental clause? Spell it out. I don't care if it takes you guys 15 extra pages to spell out what exactly is conduct detrimental to your club. I want to know instances. I want to know what to expect. So one, I can teach my players ahead of time to stay away, because it's not just being a good human. Like that's the norm, right? We know that. But if you're being silly in the locker room, going back to Wilkins, like it shouldn't be something that players have to walk on eggshells about. Again, I don't know the situation, but again, like, don't be shy. There's no word count in a contract. There's no page limit in a contract. Spell it out. I mean, that's what these guys are paying us for. That's what every agent should go in there with the mindset and say, and hope. And again, my big thing is telling the owners, if the roles were reversed and you're doing a business dealing, you'd want it spelled out as well. This isn't a hypocrisy. Let's do it for the player. Let's do it for your club. Let's do it so everybody has a common understanding.
I love it. I think that is so much more clearer for what the players are going through, what the agents are going through. It helps fans get that perspective. I think this interview has been great. I do want to be respectful of your time. I told you 30 to 40 minutes, and we kind of went over that. But
Josh, I'm a talker, man. I probably talk way too much, so
it's all good. I appreciate your time. Like I said, this has been great. I've definitely learned a lot from this as well. So I hope our viewers do as well. And I hope they subscribe as well too. So that'd be awesome. So if you're watching this and you've made it to this point in the video, you should subscribe anyway, because it's been 50 minutes. But do you have anything you want to say before I end the recording here? Any shout outs you want to give?
You can catch me weekly. I should say usually weekly on SiriusXM, channel 88, SiriusXM NFL channel. I'm on the opening drive with Solon Wilcots and Todd Haley, doing Sports Business Weekly. We break down any and all NFL business related activity, whether that's a new contract, whether that's a holdout, a hold in, whether it's a CBA and upcoming negotiations. We try to talk about anything and everything. So you got to subscribe to SiriusXM to get that. Again, that's on usually about 9 o'clock every Friday. 9 o'clock every Friday. You can follow me on Twitter or X at Agentjessejames. You feel free, drop me a DM, like a message. I respond. I like talking sports so much. Don't be afraid to ask a question. Want better understanding of anything? You can follow me on Instagram as well. Agentjessejames1. If you're at a Bengals game, or if you're at any NFL game, college game, I make a ton. And you see me out and about, stop and say hi. I promise I won't talk your ear off unless you want me. But no, I love talking any sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, NIL. It doesn't matter. I'm not shy. I love talking to everybody.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you once again to Jesse for joining us. And until next time, go do something nice for someone.